Welcome to Language TED Talk. I'm Summer, your host and co-founder of Cathoven AI, your AI grading buddy for English writing and speaking. Today's guest is a powerhouse at Kaplan, Rachel Kimber from Kaplan Testing Service. Nearly 30 years in international education, fiercely learner-focused, a champion of change, and a big believer in doing things, even it's messy. She's lived in a global journey, embraces tech, and leads with heart. So Rachel, thank you to join us.
Thank you, Summer, and what a lovely introduction. Thank you.
So, Rachel, tell us a bit about you.
So, like you said, I've been in this industry for 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've worked for Kaplan. Yeah, where Kaplan Pathways is celebrating its 20 years this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I have worked within Kaplan Pathways for probably 13 years. And then prior to that, I worked for a company that Kaplan acquired,
Uh-huh.
and also a company before that that also got acquired. So I feel like I've worked for this company for 20 something years, 28 years, I think it is now.
Wow, that's a
Yeah,
long journey. Yeah.
it is a long journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw that your LinkedIn, you've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, I try to. Whenever I have the opportunity, I love to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my home, but to me, it's the world is a very big place. It's also very small in some ways, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a big place, and I think it truly helps your mind grow and take on the perspectives of others. So
Yeah.
it's something that I love to do is traveling.
Do you speak another language if you travel so much?
I wish I spoke more. I speak schoolgirl French. I studied when I was a schoolgirl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lived in Japan for 3 years and I learned Japanese as best I could. So it's very rusty.
Uh-huh.
But yes, if I went to Japan, it would probably take me a couple of months to get my head into it. But I think I could probably understand most things.
Mm-hmm.
I think my productive skills possibly less good these days.
Uh-huh. But I find that when you learn a new language, your mindset and how you think about your life it completely change. Is it the case?
Yeah, I truly wish that I had been both bilingual. I'm so jealous of many of my friends' children who are bilingual or
Uh-huh.
trilingual.
Yeah.
And I just see it as such a skill. And you're right, it's not just language,
Yeah.
it's positioning in your brain and it's how you perceive things.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I guess you're bilingual, are you? Bilingual or?
By Chinese, English, but I'm
Yes.
learning and Cantonese. I don't know whether that counts. You know, Chinese,
Yeah, trilingual. I
like
think that's trilingual. Yeah.
yeah. But I'm learning
Yes.
Spanish now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I would love to learn Arabic. Um,
Arabic. Okay, why?
yeah, I'd love to learn Arabic, but yeah, it's time. It's time.
Yeah. But I find that a very funny thing is that because what two of my co-founders also speak Spanish, and I'm trying to greeting to them in every meeting. And then when they ask me, how are you? And I said, muy bien. And then they said, how do you say that I'm not that good? I said, I don't know. And then they said that, do you find that in every new language, life starts out very good, literally, because you
Yeah.
don't even say or you don't learn the bad words until level B1 or B2.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like speaking on the telephone
Yeah.
when I was living in Japan, and I could certainly ask for things because I'd practiced beforehand, and then I'd get a response that I wasn't expecting, and I'd be like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
We
Finished
can, yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. We can only respond to positive things. So you can only say you
It's
are
true.
fine, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what inspired you, kept you in Kaplan for so long?
Yeah, it's a question that I think I ask myself that question at times, and I also get that question from colleagues and yeah, from people in the industry. And uh, for me, it's a, the industry and the sector is very challenging. Every year, something is different. There might be different regulatory issues, different government sort of rules that we have to adhere to. But for me, I started off as a foundation year tutor, so in an academic role. at the time, it was one of the first foundation programs in the UK. We
Mm-hmm.
had 7 students. I now work for a company that has 7,000.
Wow.
So I think that growth perspective
Yeah.
has kept me interested and inspired. And if I also reflect on those 28 years, and this is something that I'm saying to a lot of my colleagues right now, both within Kaplan and also within the industry, that actually my most pleasurable, maybe this makes me weird, maybe I shouldn't share this, but my most pleasurable times
Mm-hmm.
have been when things have been tough. And that's when people come together, they want to collaborate, they want to work together, they want to find the solution. And there's also that feeling of we are going to swim and we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And I think to me that makes it really interesting. And in that 28 years, let me tell you, there's been some real downs and there's been some real highs. And you know, the industry as a whole is pretty much on a down at the moment. It's tough. It's tough times for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be thankful for, and there's a lot that makes us who we are.
Yeah.
And I think the one theme throughout there are my colleagues. So a big shout out to them who make meetings bearable, who give me a laugh in the morning, give me smiles in the morning, and also who are there. We're there for each other. We're there through the tough times as well as the good times. And that to me, just for me, in any case, it's always about the people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's why. And you know, every time I get bored, something new happens. And of course I get bored. I mean, 28 years, it's never going to be like amazing every day, but every time I get bored, something changes, or my boss will say, do you want to take responsibility for this? Do you want to change and do that? Or let's think about your team and how we can restructure to give other people an opportunity. So there's always something to do. There's always change. So I relish change. I like it.
I resonated with that, and I went to the reception this year hosted by Kaplan,
Oh,
and I
did
find
you? Oh,
and
lovely.
I met so many people, and most of them work there for a long time.
We have a lot of longevity. I'm not that unusual. I mean,
Yeah.
28 years feels like, yeah, it's a lifetime for many of my colleagues, literally.
Yeah.
I have many like colleagues in their 20s and they're like, yeah, I feel like such an old woman next to them. But it's not that unusual. It's really, truly not that unusual. And I think the other thing that is maybe more unusual is that I have had 2 line managers in that entire period. 2. That's it. In 28 years.
Means they have been there for a very long time as well.
And my first manager still works for the business.
Wow.
Yeah. So that to me says something about Kaplan as well. It's it's good. It's a good place to work.
I can feel it. Online assessment have evolved significantly. What is the most exciting innovation you've seen in this area lately?
Guess what I'm going to say? 2 letters. Give me an A, give me an I. AI, it has to be, right? I mean, it has come in, it was like a flood. And of course, we could see it coming a lot. But I think as well, when I say AI, and I think my dev lead and my IT colleagues would be like, oh, you don't get it, Rachel. When I talk about AI, I think sometimes I talk about technology and AI, and I sometimes get them intermixed. But I think it's the AI which is driving the technology, which is making this a really exciting space to be in right now, and bringing in the most change probably than we've seen in a very long time. I think it's what really drives me, what really interests me as well, is how it can change learning language as well. And that's not something I'm so involved in. Obviously, Kaplan is with our Kaplan languages group, and within Pathways, we also obviously do some language training. But for me, it's the intertwining of assessment and learning, which is where the exciting space is, so that we can hopefully ditch, and I think we'll talk about this maybe in more depth, but hopefully we can ditch that assessment is like this. That's the box of assessment. And then you take that box, you get into that box, you do the assessment, you never open that box again. Do you know what I mean? It's never the same. So if I can just say, if I think back to 30 years ago when I was a student,
Mm-hmm.
and all of my finals that I had to do, all of the assessment that I had to do at university, I'm not saying I didn't learn anything in that process,
Yeah.
but I have never had to write an essay for work. Not once, not in 30 years. And yet pretty much that was all of my university education was about,
Writing
was
essays.
writing essays.
Yeah.
And
Same.
you just think, well, do you know what? Can we change this? Can we start making education more relevant to the learners?
Yeah.
And I think if you can make it relevant to the learners, then it's going to be the inspiring. Then you're going to have the motivation of learners to do the best that they can possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the assessment can then be checking and tracking their progress
Yeah.
in whatever field it is,
Yeah.
that I think is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I think AI can do it. I think AI is going to open up doors. It already is, but I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah. But even if I think writing essay itself could be a good thing. It's just the topic. Do you agree? Because learning, you have to use language, like you have to use the output to change the short memory to retain the knowledge. So,
Yeah, maybe. I think if I had become an academic,
uh-huh,
maybe the writing of essays might have been really relevant to me.
uh-huh.
But and yes, I don't disagree that writing essays is a useful skill to have,
Hmm.
but all of my assessment was essay writing, all of it.
That is
I had no presentations, I had no group work, I had no
fun.
discussion, I
Okay.
had no podcasts. Podcasts weren't even a thing then, let me tell you.
Uh-huh.
But there was nothing that I now do when I'm
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's kind of my point, really.
Got it. Yeah. You have to like make it that if you want to have the output, maybe speaking it, like you said, presentation, different ways to
Yeah,
compress the language or
yeah,
compress the information.
yeah.
Convincing traditional institution to embrace online assessment, I guess it's one of your tasks, isn't it?
It is,
Is it
yeah.
challenging?
It is challenging. It's becoming less challenging in a way. Um, you know, uh, it, when I first took over the Kaplan Testing Services, it was led in America for a time, and now it came across the UK and came across to my remit. Um, the first conversations I had was all about online versus paper tests,
Hmm.
and that was only 5 years ago. Whereas now it's online versus online, or online on demand versus online test center.
Yeah.
And it's so Kaplan Test of English is an online on demand product.
Hmm.
And that takes some convincing because people are still stuck in the last century. Not being too rude, but that they're still under the perception that this test centers are more secure and paper based is even more secure, and it's like,
To
well,
track it back. Yeah.
yeah, let's reconsider that. So I think the main thing that I look at now, and when my colleagues and I are talking to universities about this, it's trying to understand what is their reticence, what are they afraid of, have they been bitten and they're now twice shy, have they had an issue,
Yeah.
so what was the issue and is it likely to happen with us? It's also thinking about the quality of the test
Hmm.
and the quality of the mapping. So the academic and the benchmarking is against CEFR, the Common European Framework for Reference, which is our common standard in the industry.
Hmm.
And that basically not all online tests are the same. And I think the other thing is the hardest part for
Hmm.
any person running a test is to get the first university to accept it,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
As well.
Once you've done one, then it opens up and opens up and opens up. The kind of snowball effect
Yeah.
happens, but no university wants to be on their own. It's a bit of an uncomfortable space for them.
Yeah.
So it's getting easier, but yeah, there's still concerns around online on demand. I get that.
What is the concern? What is
The
their
main
fear?
concerns, yeah, the main concerns really is about fraud, and about imposters taking the test, and yeah, cheating basically is basically the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a team of exam conduct officers. We
Mm-hmm.
use some AI and we use humans a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So yeah.
Yeah. And tell us more about what Kaplan Test Service is doing.
Yeah, we I mentioned our Kaplan test of English. So our Kaplan test of English is can be used in multiple uses.
Mhm.
Um, if I start with, let's go for the most extreme in a sense, the high stakes testing, and then it's gaining admissions, universities accepting us, referring students to us to support their own admissions. We're very fast. We have a 5-day turnaround maximum. I think at the moment it's on a 2.3
Wow.
day. We track this very closely, and I think we're on a 2.3 turnaround at the moment, but we say 5 days.
Hmm.
Our product is e-proctored, recorded. So we do record and review. We do not do online proctoring, which, immediate proctoring, because we're less convinced by the security behind that. We want to have that chance to record it, and for different parts of the exam conduct team to review it and to look. So we do high stakes testing. We work with some institutions to do their progress testing and their
Hmm.
placement testing.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of B2B clients who
Yeah.
use us around in that way. Universities in the Middle East, USA, UK, and so on. So we have a number of those clients. And then we have a growing workforce sector.
Mm.
So within our workforce, we have a number of companies that are using it to support recruitment or support progress testing of their employees if they're perhaps giving English lessons,
Mm.
and also using it for things like promotion and so on. So, and
Wow.
I can also say it's the test which is used by all of our English language schools globally.
Hmm.
So what that means, in the US, we have many university partners that accept Kaplan levels
Mm.
for progression to university, but it's the test which is the mechanism behind how we assess those levels and that progression of the student.
Mm. Got
So
it. So, which means that you have been a major player in English language education for so many years. So, in your own words, what sets Kaplan apart from other tests? Or
yeah, it's definitely not one thing, Summer. It's many, many, many aspects. And it kind of reflects, in a sense, it reflects my view as a member of staff to the view of a student. So my view as a member of staff was it was all about the people and working together, working as a team. What we all work as a team is on our students. We put our students first.
Mhm.
And a lot of people say that, but we truly do. It's all about customer service. It's all about the student experience. And it sort of lends to what else we are doing within our industry.
Mhm.
So, for example, our pathways 20 years ago, our pathways was about getting students into university. And
Mhm.
that was our main drive. Whereas now it's looking beyond that first step and looking beyond it to the second or the third step, which is it's not just about getting students into university, it's about them thriving, being able to do well,
Mhm.
having the skills,
Yeah.
understanding where they fit, making sure that they feel part of that community, giving them the skills and the foundation of the skills that they'll then go on to build at university to go on into their work,
Mhm.
and into their employment.
Yeah.
And this is something that Kaplan is really focusing on right now. But it's a real kind of, let's see what we can do with our students, for our students.
Yeah.
And I think that theme runs across every business unit
Mhm.
within Kaplan that is student facing. So yeah,
I love it that you are not just preparing the students to get into the university, you're
it's
preparing, yeah,
they
to
got to thrive.
yeah, thrive.
Yeah,
Then how do you think that the Kaplan test improve their real world communication?
yeah. It's a really good point. And many tests that are on the market and have been on the market for decades are very static.
Yes.
So this is your test. You take the test. It normally takes three hours within a whole day. Our test is 2 hours typically, sometimes 3. It's adaptive. We were one of the first to develop an adaptive test. It was new technology back when we developed it in 2010.
Wow.
Now, obviously, it's been improved, and so you get increasingly more players coming on and saying, yes, we're going to now utilize this adaptive technology. But basically, it was originally designed for students in our language schools. So thousands of students coming into our language schools. Some are there for 2 weeks, some are there for a year, but all of them are being tested every 5-10 weeks, depending on the school, depending on the level. And so they needed a test with thousands of items that wasn't going to be the same, but that they could throw the test basically at all of these students, and all of the students would come out thinking, okay, I've done my best. There's no feeling of that test was too hard, because it's not static, it's adapting, it's responding. So I don't know, I'm kind of taking an assumption that you know what I mean. So let me backtrack a little bit. The adaptive technology, there's a question. If the student gets it right, the test will say a harder question. If they get it wrong, it will give them an easier question. And it will keep doing that until it's confident. Okay, I got you. I know you. You've got an upper intermediate level. Thank you. That's the end of your test. So every student, that's why it's between 2 and 3 hours, because every student has a different experience. And every student will have a different question. You can have 3 students sat in a row and they'll all have different questions coming at them, because it's responding to them personally. And I think that is a really important element. The other element I would say is that it's adaptive in that technology, but as a company, we're also adapting to our clients' needs. So if a client wants to have their own writing prompts or their own speaking prompts, no problem. It's fine. We'll just put those into the test for you. And so we can then adapt it to become much more real. So if you had a big client, I don't know, a big bank, say in Saudi Arabia or something like that, who says, well, I want customer service style writing and customer service, like email type tests, email type writing prompts, that's fine. Speaking prompts, I want customer service style speaking experience, that's fine. We can do that. So that is how it can adapt to the real world. We're on a journey with this. It's somewhere I definitely want us to go more and focus more in future years.
Nice. So language learning got a purpose. It's for real world usage instead
Absolutely.
of,
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of companies are bringing AI to English prep, but not all of them got real results. So how Kaplan making sure that technology actually leads to a better learning outcomes?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Summer. And I would say it's really as well a case of what we're talking about when we talk about real results. What we've seen over the last 5 years are more and more and more language tests coming on the market. And a lot of these newer products are using AI to generate items, to mark, to the whole thing, and that's great because they're leading the technology drive and we're seeing what's possible as well. We're watching closely, right? But for me, the real results has to come in partnership between the computer technology, AI, and humans. We talk about human in the loop, 100%. You need that. So some of our competitors, for example, can get tests back within a day. Great. But really? So to me, if that is the case, at what point have they managed to get humans in the loop? Whereas our test experience, the test takers will have contact with one of our administrative team. The test is then picked up by a human grader as well as AI grading, and also our exam conduct team. So again, it's humans in the loop at every stage. So that real world, it makes it a better result. It makes it a better it makes it more reliable in my opinion. It's more reliable.
Yeah, yeah, because real results depends on what we are measuring. It's not just
Exactly it.
yeah, it's not just the test scores, it's probably the clarity and also the confidence when you are talking in the speaking.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly it.
But as someone deeply involved in testing, where do you personally feel AI adds most value and where do you think it still falls short?
Yeah. The easiest is in reading and listening.
Yeah, multiple
And
choice.
it's yeah, multiple choice. There we go. They're
Yeah.
easy, much easier.
Yeah.
Um, where I think it's adding value as well right now is in the generating of items.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned before, we have thousands of test items in the bank and the speaking items, because speaking is not just in received pronunciation of Queen's English, right? It's,
Yeah.
or King's English, I should say now, but it's not, it shouldn't just be English, and it shouldn't just be American English. It should be
Mm-hmm.
all Englishes.
Yeah.
And AI can definitely help with that. There's some really cool technology out there that
Mm-hmm.
supports that.
Yeah.
From a writing perspective, again, it's item generation. What I think we're still falling short of is how we can utilize AI in the grading. It's getting there,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's not there yet. And at what point, at what point is good enough? You know, at what
Mm-hmm.
point do we feel that, you know, you've got two human graders, they might give a test a different result, right?
Yeah.
But through all of our grading, we do a lot of training with the graders around this to make sure that two graders are as close as possible, right?
Yeah.
That they're giving that we've got consistency there.
Mm-hmm.
With AI, it's also getting closer, but it's not as close as we need it to be before we can launch anything like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a case in point. You know, watch this space. I think we're getting closer, but we're not there yet. And the other area that I do not believe we're close enough is the understanding speech, and AI understanding speech,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll have seen this yourself by transcripts in meetings,
Yeah.
and then you read the transcript back and you think, well, I didn't say that. Um, yeah. And so
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's really clear. So it's doing a good job.
Yeah.
It's kind of maybe 75, 80% there, but it's definitely not there yet.
Yeah.
So that I think is another area that we're moving towards, but we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned it, it seems that writing or grading writing is a challenge. Do you know that
Yeah.
we are doing it? Do you know? I,
Which it depends, right? And if it's for young sort of lower level learners and intermediate learners, it's probably fine.
yeah.
But for high stakes testing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's not quite fine yet. I don't know. I don't mean to.
I definitely need to show you later after this
Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
We are doing the grading part for the high stake test like IELTS.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
also we also do the grading for CFR, and we got university who are using our
Uh-huh.
yeah. But because we also not only do the grading, we also give a detailed feedback, and
Yes.
the feedback it will be leveled. I remember last year when I
Yes.
talked to you,
Yes.
we specialize in CFR leveling.
Yeah, I remember the meeting, and I remember walking away from that meeting thinking this is really interesting technology. But a
Uh-huh.
year ago when we first met, I
Yeah.
thought we're not there yet.
Uh-huh.
So it's interesting, and I would be interested to have that call with you definitely afterwards.
So looking ahead, are there any future AI-powered initiatives at Kaplan you are like especially excited about? Maybe something that could shift how we approach English prep or testing entirely?
Yeah. Um, I touched on this before, and it's learning and testing with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I truly do not see the point of a maths student. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say it's a student who is learning English for university and for a future career
Yeah.
in a finance company or whatever. I truly do not see the point in that person having to learn how to write essays, learn how to write long or analyze large texts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't see the point. I think it would be much more real to that person if it were more about finding the solution, discussing the solution with others, working in a group, having a real discussion about, well, you can't do that because if you do that, then that happens. And if that, so having a real life example for math students, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's making sure that the language really reflects the purpose of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will be truly it will be a life-changing moment for every language learner.
Yeah. But do you have a controversial opinion about current methods of English assessment?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like being too controversial. It's not really in me to be that controversial, but
Mhm.
I mean, the reason that I like our test against other tests
Yeah.
is that I started my career as an English language teacher.
Mm.
And as an English language teacher, I was teaching a very popular, I'm not going to give the name, but a very popular test which is accepted very
Mhm.
widely across the world. And as an English language teacher, I thought I was pretty good. I'm going to say that right. I thought I was okay. And then I'd have my class of 15 students go and take the test. And then they'd come back. The results would come back 10 days later. And you look at it and think, oh, I didn't predict that. How could I have predicted that? Some of the students did better than I would have expected. Some of them did a lot worse, and only a proportion of them got a score that truly reflected their level. Now that makes me really uncomfortable, and it should make a lot of people very uncomfortable
Yeah.
because the students that got better are getting through, they're getting through the system, they're getting through to progress to university.
Yes.
And those poor students at the bottom end who should have done it then have to pay a lot more money, they have to put themselves a lot more stress, to do that test again.
Yeah.
And really, truly, what is the point? And I have to say that when I first took this over 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I was right across every part of our business. And I wanted to hear when we got complaints, what were students complaining about? I wanted to hear about feedback. I wanted to hear everything. And I think that one of my favorite complaints, I always like complaints because it helps you improve. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite complaints, which just made me, sorry to say, it made me laugh and it made me feel proud, was that the student said, I have taken this test 3 times now and my result is the same.
Mm.
I'm like, good. That's the point. You
Yeah.
haven't learned anything in
Yeah.
between. Give yourself a 5-week learning program in between taking the test and then take it and let's see. Then you should see your level improve. So it's all about taking a test, having it a true reflection. And I think some of the tests which are very widely accepted are not like that.
No, yeah. If you're familiar with that test, then probably you'll get higher score. Like IELTS, I would
Yes,
say.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because I took IELTS myself and I took
And
like 3 times and
yes,
with being more familiar with that test, I got higher score
yes.
and yeah.
And there is that familiarity, and that should be with all tests. I mean, if you're not familiar about how a test, you spend the first, oh, what's happening? So we have a practice test, for example, on our website, but we shouldn't be rewarding preparedness for a test. We
No,
should be rewarding language level
yeah,
and ability.
yeah,
It's not how well you can prepare for a test.
yeah.
And when I was a teacher, some of my students would miss class just before the test because their reason for missing class, we contact them, are you okay? Are you sick? No, I'm not sick. I'm cramming. I'm cramming? And I'm thinking, yeah, don't like this.
Oh no,
So
yeah.
that is kind of, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Scores sometimes give me a different feeling. Like I got 8.5 in IELTS. And then I actually, when I'm talking in the real life, I constantly make some mistakes or grammar mistake, like my own mistakes. And then I sometimes also got accent. My friend said, "Oh, how did you get 8.5?" And I got embarrassed when they said that. But after a while, I feel like it's just a score. They're not always believe that, okay, the score reflects my real ability because
Yeah.
yeah, because language is not just about like the score and also about the communication skill. Yeah, nobody is scoring my humor.
Quite right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Imagine we are 10 years into the future. What's one thing you hope we'll stop doing in language education?
We are no longer going to have a single test. It will be like lots of, you'll be able to program what do I want to do with my English and how do I want it to be testing me, and then or your school can or your workplace can, and
Yeah.
then we can work on that. I um I really love as well the technology that's coming out in terms of virtual reality and using a headset or perhaps being immersed in a room where even if the other people are not really there, you can have this virtual reality conversation.
Yeah.
And then it's a conversation not just with one person, but it can be with others. We could have people with different accents, different Englishes
Yeah.
in that same room, and looking at how you cope in that situation.
Yeah.
Or to go back to my Saudi bank example, we'd be able to have the learner and the employee who's learning English to
Yeah.
be the bank teller
Yeah.
who is greeting customers on their way in or having a conversation with a client about a bank loan or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But we'd be testing that. We wouldn't be testing static static learning. Yeah.
It would be, yeah, VR definitely is an interesting topic because it can prepare you for the real world battle, let's say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, give you a
Absolutely.
safe place before that. I would love that. I would love to
Yeah.
have a VR when I enter, let's say, an event.
Yes.
Back then, different characters, different companies, and then there will be a fake
I don't
people.
think I don't think they went that far off that though, because if you think about the AI chatbots and you've got there's sort of robots coming out that are providing support to old people, for example. Well, thankfully we have a lot of people coming into the UK who work in our care homes. Long may that continue. But wouldn't it be amazing if those people were tested on their level of English of how can they communicate with the people that they're going to be looking after?
Yeah.
So those bots are there
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. They're growing in number and in sophistication.
Yeah,
But wouldn't it be cool, because we'll still need humans around us, obviously,
for
but
sure.
wouldn't it be cool if we could train those people with the use of those bots and how that could work?
Yeah, that would be
Becomes
helpful.
very real English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the key advice or wisdom you've received that's still guiding your decision today so you can share with the audience?
um what's the key thing? There's two things and they're very related.
Hmm.
And I think it drives me very much because it's all about thinking, how am I going to approach this problem? So this is not so much about language learning, but just in life generally, and about my business sense.
Hmm.
Um, I did a Yale course, management course, a few years ago, and there was lots of things I learned from it, but there was one phrase which really I kind of went, oh, that I'm going to remember that,
Hmm.
and I still remember it. And it is, if something is worth doing. And then for me as a child, my father used to say, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Go
Yeah.
and do it again. That history essay is no good. You have to rewrite it, or whatever it might be. To the knowledge, the wisdom that I learned from the Yale professor was, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing badly.
Wow.
And I love that because it takes away the pressure. It
Hmm.
takes away the pressure to get going, to start, to we have team mugs, and I realize I've got mine here. Make it
Make it
happen.
happen. Hmm.
And I love that. Just do it. Just do it. Just get going.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Don't build the cathedral, just build the chapel. Just do a little bit,
Yeah.
bit by bit, and you're going to get there. Don't get paralyzed by, oh, this is such a big thing, it's such a big monstrosity, I don't even know where to begin.
Hmm.
Okay, then break it down.
Yeah. And that, yeah, we got the similar approach in business as well. I totally agree. If it's worth doing badly and also fast.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And yes, you can strive for perfection because you're always wanting to make it better. I'm not saying that it's rubbish and that's okay.
yeah,
I'm just saying it's rubbish as the first iteration. Of course it's
yeah,
going to be rubbish, and then you're going to look to improve it and then improve it and improve it.
yeah.
But you're never going to reach perfection. Nobody ever is going to
No,
reach perfection.
yeah,
Nothing and nobody is perfect.
yeah,
So where can we improve? And constantly looking for ways to improve is part of that
mhm,
of that approach.
yeah. You learn by shipping messy once and fixing
Yes.
emotion.
Yes.
Like what you just mentioned, that what you remember or cherish the most would be the tough time that when you were
Yes.
working in Kaplan.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Rachel, for today's podcast. I guess the audience would love it. But do you want to say goodbye or hello in Japanese at the
Sayonara.
end? All right. So thank you, Rachel.
Take care. Thanks ever so much,
Take care.
Summer.